But the thing that's remained consistent is the spirit of working on our culture, connecting with each other, lifting each other up. Just the number of ways that people share and celebrate each other's work, from like our Slack channels to Tuesdays with Carl and like all the other things. That stuff has found a way to grow through all the changes. But it's just shifted from, one platform to another or one pace to another.
Welcome to the Culture Goodr podcast, a behind the shades look at creating and changing culture inside of Goodr sunglasses.
All right. Welcome back to the Culture Goodr podcast. So, Stephen, we did an episode about a year ago that was what it's like to work at Goodr now. But since it's been a year, feels like now has like changed quite a bit, huh?
Oh, for sure. I mean, 1 year Goodr is like 7 years. So we got to at least record one of these every year. Easily.
It definitely maps to dog years for sure. I started calling it flamingo years, like everything that happens in whatever period of time is like, that's like a year. So that happens multiple times a year. So we've got our thoughts and we'll jump into those real quick. But then, Stephen and I thought it would be great to bring in some guests. So we've got, folks from sort of like the early, middle to recent times, and we'll bring them on and get their perspective as well. So, before we do that, any quick reflections on what the last year has brought us, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really what's interesting is I do think it's actually maybe the Goodr years are slowing. Maybe early on it was 7 years in one. Maybe it's like 5. I think the bigger we get, it does feel like it is not moving as fast. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, that's a great observation. Also, even just the kinds of, like we've talked about this before, but like when you're a young, small company, you've got a few people doing a lot of things, and now we have a lot of people doing a few things each.
Yeah, so that's one thing that's for sure noticeable. I think that if I was to look at the eras of Goodr, 2015 and 16, we were a side hustle. We didn't have a staff. That's like era 1. Era 2 would be 2017, 18, 19. We got to about 35 people. That was the flat era. So we were a complete flat reporting structure. Everybody reported to me.
Yeah.
And then in 2019, we went to flocks. So that was the flock era. That was 19, 20, and then into 21. When 21, we went to herd. So that was when we developed departments. And then 21 and 22 was the herd era. And then last year we developed a colony. And so I know that's how I would look at it. Or another way we were talking off camera was early on, our focus was product. As soon as you develop your product in 2000, so 15, 100% product focus. That's our first anchor. Then in 16 and 17, it became marketing, because then you got to sell that product.
Yeah.
Anchor 2. Then as soon as you started hiring a staff in 17, and in 2018, really anchor 3 people became a competitive advantage of ours. And then 2021, we realized operations. And so, our 4 anchors now are product, marketing, operations, and people. But those are also maybe eras of the company that I would look through as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And each one of those has its own specific feel to where kind of the attention was going, the energy's flowing, and maybe most of the most of the challenges. It's almost like you're kind of following whack-a-mole of challenges around with any business, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, and I'd love to get your take on this, some of the biggest maybe shifts from a year from now, there's little things like our TWC used to be 2 years ago, we did 42-hour ones a year. Now we do 24 1-hour ones. And so there's a bunch of those little things that have just kind of naturally moved. For our listeners out there, the goal is it's impossible to think that we're going to keep our culture the same at 25 people versus 50 versus 100 versus 150. It is impossible. My primary focus is making sure we evolve the culture appropriately. And so there's so much of the culture we've actually just evolved so naturally and appropriately that you kind of forget about how it used to be. And so there's a lot of those things that I'm probably missing. I mean, maybe the biggest thing that really has shifted in a year from now, I think the last year we've gone from everybody knowing everyone's name to we're so big that I'm not sure that's the case now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we still have the connection calls, so everyone connects individually with every single person, but it probably takes 6 months to do that now. Whereas before it was like, all right, first 2 weeks, you're just going to connect with everybody here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I still know everybody's name because like I speak to everybody during onboarding, and you probably do because you work with every onboarding class.
Same thing. Yeah.
But I think that is real when you get to our size, which is, I was going to say unfortunate, but I don't know. I think it's just natural. Like it's the reality of the size, and it's an okay thing. And we do a lot of work to make sure everybody still connects and connects with each other.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the things I've noticed as well. As you were saying that, I'm realizing, yeah, we used to do our 2-hour Tuesdays with Carl, like basically every single week, right? And that was a big connection point. But as we've gotten more efficient with those things, we've found how to make them more effective, and then like pick and choose what is the best way to drive connection, and found different ways to shape that and to disperse information, and found different ways to do that. But the thing that's remained consistent is the spirit of working on our culture, connecting with each other, lifting each other up. Just the number of ways that people share and celebrate each other's work, from like our Slack channels to Tuesdays with Carl and like all the other things. That stuff has found a way to grow through all the changes. But it's just shifted from, one platform to another, or one pace to another.
Yeah. And my last point, and before we bring in our first guest, is I actually think in our size growth, certain things have gotten exponentially better. I'll actually point to TWC, mm-hmm. For our listeners out there, TWC, Tuesdays with Carl, is our staff meeting. We used to do over 40 plus a year. Virtually every Tuesday, we'd have a 2-hour meeting. There was a time when I drove most of them. I would do a culture talk every single Tuesday. It was great for me. I mean, I got my 10,000 hours in. But as we have evolved, I don't have the space to prep a talk like that. Coming into this year, really, we create our brand directive. We have a real big focus on our 4 anchors of product, marketing, people, operations, and people. And so for TWC, we've moved them to about 24 of them. So, every other week, and we focus them by anchor, product, marketing, people, operations, and then I'll do a brand one, and then we repeat. And what's cool is I've handed over the responsibility. So I'm not involved in the ones that are not brand. And I sit there and I'm like, this is a fucking master class on how to put together a TWC. and so what's really cool about it, I'm like, I think it's even better now. And so there's a lot of those things that they are different and they're evolved, but I think they're better.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to tie it to what you said, kind of the eras of like, side hustle, flat structure, flocks, like that. It's like what you were doing there is attempting to establish something new from scratch. Like you're kind of the scaffolding of everything. And then as you step away from it, you trust people to take it on from there and kind of make it their own. And so in every case, that's basically been what's happened. And it lives on in its own way, but it's always appropriate to our size and our focus at the time.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool to see. It's really cool to see. I'm very proud and very impressed by handing things over and people doing things just way better than I could.
As you should be. We've got a lot of awesome people doing a lot of amazing work for sure.
Awesome. Should we bring in April, our first guest?
Yeah. Speaking of awesome people doing amazing work, let's get April in here. Hey, April, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, of course. Well, so, we're speaking to you and a couple of other folks to get some perspective on what it's like to work at goodr now. You've obviously been at goodr for a while, but when did you start? And when you started, what was your role versus what is it now?
Yeah, I joined the goodr team in August of 2018, so quite a while ago. And I started as a customer service agent. And I have now become the senior events project manager on the marketing team.
All right. Some big changes there, huh?
Yeah. Got to jump around quite a bit and really like where I'm at now. So
April, do you remember what employee number you were?
17th. I was the 17th.
Oh, you're employee number 17. Wow. But now you got to be maybe like the 8th longest one here. Do you know what number that is?
It probably is around 8. I think there's like 8 of us out of that 17 still here.
Oh, that's wild. Were we in the hangar? What office were we at when you started?
Yeah, we were at the hangar right by the airport.
Oh man, that's crazy. Who hired you here? Like, what was the interview process like to help us out?
Okay, so the interview process started with I got a call on like a Wednesday for the job, and then they were like, "Can you come in Friday?" So I came in Friday, interviewed at the hangar. Got a call back that afternoon and was like, "Can you start Monday?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll start Monday." And so that was it. That was one interview, and then I came to the hangar on Monday and started my job.
So everybody's listening who's going through the interview process right now that it's had like 3 phone interviews and they're coming in person and doing an assignment is like, get the fuck out of my face right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't think we started officially doing our really in-depth interviewing process till early 2020.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like I don't even know if I would make it through the interview process or onboarding process that we have now.
Oh, I'm absolutely positive you would.
Yeah.
Did you have onboarding? What was onboarding like then?
I did. Let's see. No onboarding. On my first day, I came in and I got a laptop from goodr, and they were like, "Here's how you log into Zendesk. Here's how you log into Gmail. Here's how you log into ShipStation. Please help us now." Like, so I mean, it was that.
I'm embarrassed, and also it worked out. So here we are.
Yeah. I'm hit by that a little bit because Stephen and I multiple times have been like, a lot of companies onboarding is like, here's your computer, there's your desk, there's a copier, good luck. It sounds like that's exactly what we did to you.
Yep. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so what do you think has changed the most since you started, April?
Well, I was going to talk about the onboarding and the interview process, obviously, because I do think that I think if you told HR like the story we just talked about, they would totally be like aghast, taken back from the fact that I just started on the day, because we have such a dialed and detailed process now of how many interviews you have to go through, and then like everything you have to do when we onboard. I did draw a pirate fighting an octopus back then for my application, so that has stayed the same. But other than that, the onboarding, I took the similar things as I still had to do my connection calls when I onboarded, but I do think that was it. Other than that, it was just really diving in on the first day. We read Dare to Lead maybe a month later into that, and that was about it. But luckily there was other customer service agents that were all like kind of new with me, so we kind of trained each other, helped each other out, and really hit the ground running.
What I love about this story is, I think sometimes people from the outside just think we were birthed this like culture and people machine. It's like, we were not. We started at rock bottom like everybody else and realized that's a problem. We probably should fix it.
Yeah.
And so I love being reminded of things like this.
Yeah. I have a funny story too, was because when they hired me on Friday, they didn't really give me much details about Monday. So I went out over the weekend. I thought I was going to have to bring my own laptop. So I went out over the weekend and bought like a MacBook, because I was like, oh, I'm going to have to, bring my own laptop for this customer service stuff. And when I came in on Monday, they ended up door dashing in a laptop for me. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Didn't even know you could DoorDash a laptop. Just learned that today. Okay, cool. So what's one thing you wish you'd known on day one after all this time here?
I think I wish I'd just known, like, aside from not that I wouldn't need a laptop, is just that I was making the right decision, and the culture of this company was going to be warm and inviting and fun, and most importantly, just like an environment that's conducive to growth.
Who was your first boss?
We were flat-ish back then.
I guess technically me.
Yeah, so technically you. And then it became Ashley, who used to lead up the CS department, and April, who was in customer service when I started, but moved over to our Beast community manager.
Who was like your first like friend at goodr that you met that you like really connected with?
Probably like, it was this new customer service. It was like Jacob and Katie, who are no longer, they've both moved on to pursue their other passions.
In a major way.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you say, as you look back on your long tenure here at goodr, what's been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
I think just getting to grow with the company. There's a lot of things that I've got to kind of embed into the culture that have been like my ideas as well. And so to get to see those like live on past, just me pitching them. So for example, like a couple years back, I pitched herd points to both you and to both Stephen and Shaun here. And that's something that we're like doing today. And so the herds are going herd to herd, trying to earn points for their teams to earn a reward at the end of the year. So just getting to see stuff like that like originated out of like an idea I have, just continue to live on in the culture.
What's the favorite, you do events. What's the favorite event you've ever done here? Or you can do a couple if you want, you don't have to pick just one.
No, it's easy. The Flamingo Open was definitely
Year one or two?
Year two was super fun because we got to do, we'd already done it once. We knew how a golf tournament ran at that point, and just got to go like crazy with it. And at that time, like, I just felt like I got to do almost like whatever I dreamed up, we tried to make happen at that Flamingo Open. So
weren't we close to the world record for number of lawn flamingos?
Oh, we have the official world record of number of lawn.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. But we did not go through Guinness World Records to get it. So it's like unofficially, we have the world record for most flamingos. Yeah.
That's almost cooler.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, so, you've been here a while. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of different personal and professional growth. What do you think has been the most supportive to that over the years?
I think goodr's just made me feel more confident. When I was first looking for jobs and coming to goodr, I was super new to like having an official career, fresher out of college, and when you're doing that, when you're looking at job postings and stuff like that, and the skills that they're listing, stuff like that, you just don't feel confident that you have what you need to bring to the table. But just working for goodr has been like, oh no, I know exactly what my skill sets are now, what I'm passionate about, what my strong suits are. And so I've been able to grow that into my personal, sort of career and personal growth.
That's cool. Do you remember learning? Do you remember learning the Enneagram at goodr?
Yes.
What was your thought when we taught everybody the Enneagram?
Well, I had not done the Enneagram in college, but we had done like the Myers-Briggs, I think, which is like kind of similar. So I had taken a personality test before, but I know when I first took the Enneagram test, it was funny because I had a 3-way tie with 3 numbers and then 2 numbers, just 2 points off from that. So it was almost a 5-way tie. And I like was on the phone with Shaun and I was like, what am I? Like, I didn't land anywhere, like solid. So we had to talk through it for a while and kind of try to figure it out.
That's fun.
Yeah. You landed on 7, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Which is, you're keeping all your options open there with all those ties.
Teletype 7.
Exactly.
Classic. Great. Okay. So what advice would you give someone who's just starting at goodr today?
I would say don't be afraid of the leadership here at goodr. That can be something that's scary when you're starting a new job, is like the founders or the upper management, the leadership. You don't want to talk with them or you don't want to build that connection just because they are higher up. That can be intimidating. But I would say I've been very lucky that I got to grow up alongside of them essentially over these last few years. And it's like everyone's very open to ideas. Everyone is, a great person. They listen, they take your thoughts and ideas into consideration. And, so I'm not nervous to approach Nicole, who's like head of people, because it's like, oh, that's Nicole, who I took boxing and spin classes with back in the day. And so I have that connection. Or Dan and Kelly, it's like, oh, I ran a race with them in Oregon, like a relay race. So it's like I've got to build those connections with them over the year. So I would just tell people, don't be intimidated by them. Everyone here is like a great person and very open. So
and then one last question to get you out of here. If you're just out in the world on an airplane, somebody's like, oh, you work at goodr. What's it like to work at goodr? How would you answer that question?
Oh, what's it like to work at goodr? I always tell people it's a lot of fun, but a lot of hard work. So it's like, it's like, while it looks like we're just, having margaritas and having fun at Catalina Island or something like that. It's like, oh, there was a lot of work into getting our whole team over there. So it's like we get to have fun, but we definitely work hard. So if you're thinking you're just looking for an easy job or something, this isn't it. It's like we work hard, we play hard.
Yeah, I always tell people, goodr it's not an easy place to work, but if you love work and you love solving hard problems and you love like producing a high quality of work, it's the best job you'll ever have. If you don't, you shouldn't work here because it's not an easy place to work.
Exactly. And change, and as you always say, change is constant. So it's like, things will change.
You got to be okay with change for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, April, thank you so much for sticking around so long here. And also thanks for joining us on the podcast today. It's been fun to have you on.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Bye, April.
Sure thing.
Bye.
Right. See ya. All right. So we're here with Mikey. So Mikey, can you tell us, when did you start? What was your first role when you started? And then maybe like what's been your journey to your role now?
Yeah. Started off in the pandemic COVID class is like what I like to call it, with the CS squad. But I started off as a customer service parrot. And that is essentially, our best customer service parrots in the galaxy are the people who answer emails, help out any customer who needs assistance with anything related to our product or any misshipments or anything of that nature. So that's where I started off in. Yeah. So right after being a customer service parrot, just like a normal agent, I actually pitched for a new role with Crafty, who was our customer service flock leader. And it was for social media. We didn't have a social media parrot, which is someone who was answering the DMs, helping out on that end. And that is where I ended up for the next 6 months, around like mid 2022 to 23. But then a new opportunity came around, and it was the Flamingo Expanse, if I'm correct, Stephen. And that was offering a new role with the product manager, being with licensing. And so took a leap of faith, and it was a new role. But, here we are now about a year and a half later. I think what it feels like, time here is insane the way it passes by. So yeah, here I am now as our product manager within licensing. And that means essentially that I'm looking for new brands to find new eyeballs for the brand. Any fun plays that I see, like Goldschlager, Fruit Loops, all that good stuff. That's where we're at right now.
Mikey, so you was it the end of 2021? What month? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was March, actually, March 1st.
March of 21?
Yeah.
How big were we? How many people do we?
It was 70, if I'm correct. Yeah, it was about 65 to 70. Yeah.
So what was onboarding like in the pandemic? Remind us.
Yeah. So it was still everything like, social distancing. We got into the office and it was very empty inside the office. So Maya did a great job of leading us inside of hell at the time, and it was only 6 of us in there. It was only also customer service people. It wasn't different departments within that hiring class. So it was very, very centralized, but it felt very intimate. And honestly, I look back at those times very fondly because we were such a close class, and we still are to this day.
Did I do, because now I do a tour, I do a Q&A. Was I involved in onboarding at that time?
Yeah, you had a one-on-one with us. I think you had that in the box office. Yeah, it was all of us in there, and you just gave us the brand spiel, and it was so cool to just have that time.
That's
with
right.
You.
Okay. Oh, that's fun. What a wild time to be onboarded inside the pandemic.
Definitely. But we made it work, and it was so cool.
Yeah,
it was so intimate. I think that's the way I love the most about those times, very intimate. We had our space to talk about everything that we needed to at that time,
Yeah, we did the best we could.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, we made it out of the pandemic, thankfully. Outside of that, what do you think's changed the most since you started, Mikey?
Honestly, I was thinking about this, and I don't think there's a lot. Really, we're just growing, and at a crazy rate. I can't believe that we're at almost, 170, 150 something. But I don't think a lot has changed from my eyes. I think the culture is still alive. I love the fact that we still have run residencies, that we're still able to connect on runs. When goodr stock comes around, I look at it, and that's just more touch points to connect. So, and on that end, not a lot has changed for me.
Mikey, now, honest answer, do you know everybody's name of the company?
No, I don't. Not right now at this moment. The first 100.
I said, yeah, what I said, I think the biggest change maybe from a year ago to now is we've maybe crossed that chasm. Like Shaun and I know everybody because we're involved in onboarding, but I don't think that's the case.
Agreed. Yeah. I think that's impossible at this point. I could try, but it'd be very hard. Yeah.
No. I think most people can only remember about 200 people, and that's like family, staff, everything. So
Right.
we've crossed the chasm.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah. Everyone you know in your life plus 150 more people, you're losing somebody somewhere. Cool. So as you reflect on, what you've learned since joining goodr, what do you wish you would have known on day one?
Yeah, I mean, the first couple of weeks are an assault on the brain. There's just so much happening, and I remember going to my house just super mentally drained. But if there's anything that I would have known is just to lean in, because now I lean on everything that I can in terms of what we're doing extracurricular outside of what we're doing here at goodr. But really just leaning in. Everybody's here to help you. Truly, everybody. If you slack them, they will help you, and that's really what I wish would have known. Because coming from other jobs back in the day, you feel a little hesitant to reach out to someone to ask for a question. It can be something so minor, but that's what I would have, told myself.
Was there, I love that answer, Mikey. Was there anything in the moment you were like, why the fuck are we learning this in onboarding? And then later on you were like, got it. Was there anything like that you can think of?
Yeah, I think specifically for me, the amount of products. I mean, onboarding with Ashley Craft, she was like, okay, we have a product deck, which is probably extinct by now. Let me be very clear. This product deck is probably extinct. It has all of the product that we had up until then. You need to learn this, or you need to know basically all of the names for these SKUs.
Yeah.
Because when we interact with customers, you need to know what they're talking about or what we can help them with. Nowadays, I'm probably past all of what we have released. I don't even know the SKU names anymore nowadays. I have to look at a master line plan. But that's basically what I remember the most. You need to know these names and to help these customers during these times of assistance, right?
Yeah. So at the time you're like, why do I need to know all this? And then as you're talking to customers, you're like, this is why I need to know all this.
Yeah, because real quickly, people would come to me within our customer service team. They'd be like, Mikey, what does this look like to you? And then we'll just like pow out right there, like, okay, this looks like whiskeys, but potentially not, right? It's co-brand at the time, so there's a lot of stuff in the air, right?
Nice. So, Mikey, you shared a little bit of your kind of journey here at goodr, but what do you think's been the most rewarding part of it so far?
I think my journey is very interesting. I think the amount of times I've failed, probably, I know we like to talk about that, but I wouldn't have gotten here without having the assistance and the push from the leaders that I've had. And I think being able to be in this role right now required a lot of that, a lot of just failing, kind of talking to myself, what more can I bring? And that's why I come back to leaning in. So I think that's a key thread right there in that answer right there.
At goodr, I always say nobody ever gets in trouble for making mistakes. They get in trouble for hiding them or not taking ownership. Is there any, did you have trouble? Did you have to learn how to take ownership of failure here? Talk about what that experience or what that journey has been like.
Yeah, I think especially I can give the example right now in this role, right? I need to be looping teams in on every single thing. And so when something goes awry, like when a factory, let's say, has not been approved by a partner because of X, Y, and Z, and then we're like, well, we can't produce here because the audits haven't been approved on that end. And so then we're like, oh, well, this needs to stop now. We need to halt production on a certain launch because of that. So like, that's the level of like, communication that I need to be on with every single team. And so I wasn't equipped with that. When coming in with customer service, you're in your little circle, you're in your little, you're handling what you can. You're not, talking to so many teams to the point where you need to over communicate. And that's the biggest thing, over communicating now with this role and where I'm at right now. I think that's key.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. How else has goodr contributed to your personal or professional development?
Yeah, I think just, again, not being scared to just jump in. I think beforehand, when I was in customer service and even before with other jobs, I would be very hesitant, like, oh, should I reach out to this person? I think I'm going to rattle their day because I'm asking a question, whether it's important or not. And even up until like, a couple of months ago, I'd still get scared of pinging someone about certain things. So I think that's one thing that I can think of right now for sure,
Yeah. So learning to be assertive, learning that it's okay to ask for help. I mean, we say asking for help is a power move, right?
Yeah.
But you seem to be finding that out intentionally.
Definitely.
Huh?
And I think also, if I might bring it up, Stephen, storytelling, just those moments whenever I find myself in my own head or seeking for an outsider's perspective, I think that's a big thing, right? Whenever we're in our own work, we get so caught up in what we're doing, whether it's a deck or a presentation. And I've done better nowadays to be able to say, hey, Mike, can you look at this? How does this look like? Does this sound okay? What is that extra that can be added? And it's always the right move, because whenever you ask them for someone else's opinion, it's always great,
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up. I think that at goodr, I mean, anywhere, but at goodr, it's an important skill to just always share your work constantly with what you're doing. Hey, here's what I'm thinking about. What do you think? What do you think? Everybody at goodr always, they see Steven's polished work at the end, but really there is thousands of layers of garbage that I've worked through and asked feedback on. Yeah. And you should be at every level. Give me your feedback. But sometimes we don't want to do that. We're afraid to show it along the way. And so by the time you get to the finished product, you are sharing something that's not good. And yes. You really wish, you're like, damn it, I really wish I would have asked people to look at it along the way. And that's a hard lesson to learn.
Agreed. I think being able to go to mission control on a more regular basis has helped me, do that, because, when we're up there, we're talking to so many teams. It's not like I'm not living in a silo. So I think that helps refine that process, completely.
That's really solid. That's really solid advice, and been there on a lot of stuff myself too. So as you reflect back on kind of what you've learned so far, what advice would you give to someone who's just starting at goodr today?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I think leaning all the way in. I mean, times have changed in the sense that when I joined, it was a pandemic. We were seeking for that connection because we were longing for it, but it's still the same today, right? Like, we have so many things happening. Like, there's workouts at the end of the day. There's yoga that's being offered. Just leaning in on everything, and you're going to be able to like find your own little niche within goodr. And that's just the beautiful thing, because I have so many friends on different levels here at goodr, outside of work as well, which is such a beautiful thing, All
right, Mikey, very last question, get you out of here. You're on an airplane. Someone's like, oh my God, you work at goodr. What's it like? What do you say?
I say it's fast, frantic, but so rewarding.
That's a great answer.
Nice. Perfect. Awesome. Well, Mikey, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful to have you on,
thanks,
and look forward to seeing you around the office.
Thanks, y'all. It's always a pleasure to talk to y'all. Seriously.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. All right. Now we got Sarah with us. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Heck yeah. So let's see here. When did you start? What was your role when you started, and what's your role now, if it's changed?
So I started a little over a year ago. Technically, my role has not changed. I'm the Director of Business Intelligence, or the BI flock leader. Functionally, though, it's changed a bit, because when I started, I led what in reality was both the business intelligence and the systems team. And about 3 months ago, we split it now into 2 teams so that each team can get the support that they need.
Mm-hmm. So we were just talking about the last time we did this episode was about a year ago. Uh-huh. So you're the perfect person to have on here to give us the recap of what's changed.
Oh man. I mean, from a highest level, if like, what do you remember, like big level, what's different like now from versus a year ago?
So many things. I mean, just thinking about the existence of the business intelligence team, I feel like coming in, nobody knew what BI was, what we do, anything at all related to business intelligence. So the first 6 months that I was here was basically trying to explain to people, what is business intelligence? Why are we important? Why should you want to work with us? All these kinds of things. Whereas now I feel like everyone knows what we do, and we're just trying to fend off the influx of all the BI tickets that we get for, helping with automating reporting, adding new forecasting, anything along those lines. So it's exciting, but a lot of work.
Yeah, actually, you bring up a really interesting point. I actually wouldn't have pinned this until you said that it feels like in the last year we've gotten way more sophisticated as a brand, like systems, technology, business intelligence. We've actually really done a lot of really cool things that have leveled up our intelligence.
Yeah, I agree. I think it also helps that there's now dedicated focus to those. And then we've also brought in quite a few people who have specific experience in those skills, as opposed to, I think, a lot of everything that had been built up until that point were people who were kind of learning on the go as best as they could to stand up NetSuite or stand up reporting or things like that. And now we really have people who have honed their skills in those areas.
Oh yeah. How big was your class?
We had 5 in our onboarding class.
And how big was our whole entire staff? Do you remember when you started?
Something like 130, 135.
Okay. So not crazy difference.
Maybe like 130.
Nice. What do you think was the hardest thing about starting here?
I think just on a personal level, it was spending off all of my friends requesting new sunglasses. So I had to manage all of those. But functionally, I think, kind of going back to what I previously said, like nobody knew what business intelligence was. So we had to educate everyone on that. And also the BI team itself was in its infancy. So as opposed to coming in and trying to sustain a lot of practices that were already up and running, it was really me and the very small team at the time working to build up new initiatives. So building our data warehouse or educating people on how to run a sales forecast versus having some that you just kind of keep on cruise control.
What did you think of our onboarding process?
It was really exciting and quite hectic at the time. So now for new onboarding classes, they have 2 weeks of protected time before starting in their role. When I started, it was only 1 week of protected time. And coming in as a flock leader, it really wasn't even a full protected week. It was kind of like a half protected week. So it was really exciting and also a lot of work to try to juggle both. But I think all the changes that we've made to the onboarding process since then have been extremely helpful to help ease a lot of that initial entry into goodr. But it was also really fun to get to learn so much about the company and like have this like fun atmosphere of being welcome to the company versus some other previous jobs I've started at. It's kind of quiet. Like you just show up and you just kind of get into your initial role and maybe not many people even know you started kind of thing.
Oh, well, you bring up one, thanks for taking one for the team. I think a couple interesting things. One is every time we do an onboarding class, we listen, we ask like, what can we do better? Yeah. So we listen and evolve it. And so I love that. And I actually never thought that we do celebrate the new class and we announce it at a TWC. And it's not that weird thing of like, who's that new person that's sitting over in the corner? Oh, that's something I never thought before.
Because I've been there before.
Yeah, you've been the new person that's just at a desk all of a sudden.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, April was on, and in 2018, she got interviewed on Friday, started Monday, and onboarding was like an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wild. She brought her own laptop. We door dashed her another one, and it was like, there you go. Please get to work on these customer service tickets.
Very nice.
We're learning.
Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah. Hey, we're getting there. So aside from things on your team, which it sounds like you've done a great job teaching everyone what you're up to because your team is very busy. What do you think's changed the most at goodr since you started in general?
I do think it just in general feels less chaotic. When I had started, there was a lot of like, we're trying to stand up all these processes and redo a lot of, whether it's structures of teams, structures of how we do like fuck to fix, for example, has changed so much. And now it feels like we have a much better plan in place to attack issues as they come up. Not to say that everything's 100% perfect all the time, but we're better able to deal with it versus it just felt a bit frenzied when I originally started of everyone trying to do all the things all at once.
Man, I couldn't agree more. If you started in 23, like 2023 specifically, it was like an inflection year of change that was probably like none other, just from a size. I don't know. We had more change in other years, but we were so small, it was so much more manageable. Yeah. It in hindsight, it was a wildly fast moving, hectic. Yeah. You started at like the pinnacle of, frantic.
Yeah. It felt like that. And in the second week that I was here, was the first Fuck to Fix that I was also part of, which is also, I believe, the Fuck to Fix where the marketing colony came into origin. So there was just a lot of kind of reorganizing, creating new processes to make sure that all the teams were talking to each other, but also being brand new. I didn't fully understand which teams were supposed to be talking to which one. So it was quite a learning curve for sure.
Yeah. I mean, for our listeners out there, anybody who is looking to start a goodr, I think that the important thing to understand is we are a very fast-paced company. Change is inevitable. And also, I will refuse to let us die on a vine. And if the Titanic needs to be turned, I will turn it. And sometimes, unfortunately, it results in a crazy time. And I would have loved to avoid some of 2023. Personally, but alas, we are here. I appreciate your help, Sarah.
We're here. I think we're much better for it now. So that's good.
We for sure much better for it now.
Yeah. It's like interesting at the start of this podcast, we were talking about how things like maybe kind of like law of large numbers type thing, like, oh, the change is starting to slow down. But that's a really interesting observation. As before we could get there, Stephen, you kind of were like, yeah, except for this isn't working, that's not working. We need to restructure this, that, and the other thing. And then once we do that, we're probably okay. But that whole series of changes was kind of a lot all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Good thing. Well, we got through it. We're here now. Now that you've been here a year, what's one thing you wish you would have known on day one?
I wish I would have been able to memorize the names of all of the flocks from day one, because at that time, we also had quite a few silly names for flocks, some of which actually represented what the team does and some of which didn't. So it was very disorienting to come in and have everyone talk about multiple different flocks, but really was all the same flock. And I didn't realize it until several weeks later that like, oh, product strategy is Illuminati. I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah,
so
for
I
our
think
listeners,
that's helped.
Yeah. For our listeners out there, every team used to have, like, some teams would have nicknames. And so learning development would be goodr you, which that one's an easy one to connect. But then product strategy, their nickname was the Illuminati. And so if you come in from the outside, you're like, who the fuck is the Illuminati? What do they do? Yeah. And so earlier this year, I'm like, nope, it's over. That everybody needs to have a name that is their actual literal name. Not. It wasn't like a fun police thing. It was more of we got to help each other out. We got to help everybody understand what people do because of exactly what Sarah said.
Yep.
It's more like the sanity police. Like you just came in and were like, okay, so that was fun, but it's over.
It was more when I was trying to figure out who I needed to talk to learn something or resolve an issue, and people would point me towards multiple different team names that I'm like, I don't even know who to go to right now.
It's all the same person, the same team. Yeah. Cool. So what's been the most rewarding part of your journey at goodr so far?
Yeah, I'd say definitely going along the lines of what I was explaining before is just standing up the business intelligence team. The very first project that I started on when I joined goodr was myself, Gabby, and Kaden, so very small BI team at the time, and Kaden was actually working part-time. We said we wanted to build our data warehouse. So we came up with this ambitious project to pull data from all of our various systems to be able to report on it easily and automatically. And at the time, I think we had spent so many working sessions just all staring at each other being like, what are we doing? But now it's at a place where it's working so well that we can automate reports. We use it for forecasting. It makes everyone's lives so much easier. And just to think that like a year ago, we didn't even have the ability to do this has been like very kind of proud flock leader moment kind of thing of just seeing the progress that we've made. And now the team has grown so much. And again, we split into two different teams to be able to support all this data and reporting. It's been really exciting.
Is there like an anniversary of when it was stood up?
Right about now, actually, it would be like, technically we started it in August of 2023, I believe, but it didn't really have enough data in it or like enough functionality to really be doing anything until October. So yeah, we're at the 1-year anniversary.
Well, I feel like once a year on the anniversary, you should make the team do like hand reports just to appreciate how much work has been done.
Okay, we can make everyone else do the hand reports. We'll still do the automated reports.
Yeah. Can't leave those behind now that you've got them.
Yeah. Well, it's also really fun to be able to tell people like they're asking for some data that like we really just had no ability to report on that more than a year ago. And now that we have it, we can centralize all of this data from multiple systems to be able to give them the report that they need to do their work to, accomplish their goals.
Oh, for sure. And one thing I've noticed just from being in mission control is like a lot of the things that we were just kind of like, there, right? Like the target's just kind of out of nowhere. That's all gone now. You're like, well, here's what the data is pointing to, and
for sure,
checking all these different models. Like you can really be highly supportive of targeted growth and very particular strategies because of that.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about also internally, we have our neural network that we use to build our revenue forecast, which I'm also so proud of. And the neural network wouldn't even be possible if we didn't have the data warehouse to back it. So it's just like all these building blocks on top of each other. ramping up progress like lightning speed. It's exciting.
Amazing. So how's working here supported your personal and professional growth?
Yeah, on a professional level, I feel like I've been giving so many more presentations. So I've had to stand up in front of the entire company multiple different times to explain a certain process. And I feel like that's made me a better presenter, because in previous roles, I presented a lot to small groups, so like 10 to 15 people, for example. Had never really had a need or opportunity to present to 150 people altogether. So it's a really helpful mindset shift to be able to explain potentially complex issues or complex data to a wide variety of people, some who look at this data day in and day out, and some who probably don't even know what we're talking about, and being able to pull everyone along for that journey. On a personal level, I feel like it's just been an exciting combination of like the things that I like to do outside of work and the things that I like to do at work. So I run a lot. I actually found out about goodr because my run club, Midnight Runners, had a residency at the Cabana. So then as soon as I saw this job a couple years later, and I was like, oh man, this is like exactly the role I want at exactly the company I want, like getting those all together has been fun. And then from there, just getting all the peer pressure to keep running more and more, and like run a 50K and sign up for all these additional races. I feel like half the chatter that goes on in the office is like, what race are you signed up for next? Like, did you get into New York? All these kind of fun things.
Sarah, you really plugged in the run community. You know, you went to Paris for the Olympics as part of the run community. Do you find it's like a huge flex when you tell people you work for goodr?
Absolutely. When I tell people, somebody might say like, "Oh, cool sunglasses." Like, "Oh, I like your sunglasses too." We get to talking, and then like, "Oh, what do you do for work?" When I tell them, they're so excited. It's actually really fun. Yeah.
Nice. So what advice would you give to someone who's just starting at goodr today?
I would say getting your connection calls done early. So when you start here, you have to interview or just, kind of meet with every single person at the company. This includes every position, every person who starts has to do these connection calls. There's one aspect of just, it feels like a relief to get your work done early, but there's another aspect of, again, going back to, there's just so many people to work with and everyone has so many different focuses. If you meet someone and at least have the semblance of an understanding of what they do, then a couple weeks or months down the line, when things really start to click, you can say like, oh, I met with this person. They told me they do X, Y, and Z. That's actually related to this problem I'm trying to solve right now. Like, let me go talk to them. And you can put a face to the name, as opposed to having this just kind of laundry list of names. And you're like, I have no idea what these people do, but maybe they could actually help you out with something that you're trying to accomplish.
That is sound advice that people are not going to listen to. They're just going to blow through it, but it's such good advice. Sarah, very last question. You're on an airplane and someone's like, oh my God, you work at goodr. What's it like to work there? How would you answer that question?
I would say I actually hate the phrase work hard, play hard, but that kind of is what it feels like. Is like we do really good work and try to accomplish all these exciting goals. And at the same time, we're a sunglass company. Like, it's okay to have fun. We can be silly in meetings and kind of poke fun at either the names of our products or like the silly conference rooms that we have and things like that. So it's kind of a combination of both.
Yeah. I think that, also we take having fun very seriously. Like the level of work we go through just to do stupid shit is quite amusing here.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Well, Sarah, it's been great to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, it's super fun to have all of our guests on with us today. I'm sure we're going to run this back a year from now, but anything you want to add before we jump off here, Stephen?
No, I think that, I'm excited that we were able to grab 3 people at goodr because as you would see, we've changed so much over the past 9 years. Also, everybody's experience is very uniquely different to themselves. Yeah. I think that as we do this more and more, our ability to have more different voices, different people is really, really cool for our listeners. I think that goodr is a very, very special place. And it was so cool to hear 3 different people from 3 different walks of life, 3 different eras have similar yet very different responses. So I'm extremely proud of the work we do here.
As you should be. Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. Until next time, be excellent to each other.